It was a hot, dusty day outside the mill in 1900. Three young girls stood together, waiting for the shift to end. Among them was Pearl Turner, just 9 years old, her small hands already hardened from work. The mill loomed behind them, tall and dark, with smoke curling into the sky. The girls wore simple, worn-out clothes, the kind that carried the marks of long hours and hard labor. Around them, the sounds of machines roared, a constant reminder of the work that awaited them. A man with a camera appeared, squinting in the sunlight, adjusting his equipment. He asked the girls to stand still for a moment, just long enough for the photograph. Pearl's friends fidgeted, glancing nervously at the spinning wheels inside, but Pearl looked straight at the camera. She seemed to understand, even at her young age, that this image would outlast the noise and the dust, capturing a moment of their lives forever. When the flash went off, it lit up their faces, freezing them in time. For a brief moment, the harshness of the mill faded, leaving only three girls, standing together, captured in history. Pearl Turner and her friends. Pearl Turner was not alone in the mill's shadow. Her friends, also young and worn from long hours, gathered around her. Their faces showed the strain of labor, eyes tired but alert. Each girl had a story written in the lines of her small hands, calloused from turning spindles and handling heavy cloth. The mill towered behind them, a giant of bricks and iron, windows dark with soot. Outside, the sun burned down, making the air shimmer with heat. Despite everything, the girls clung to each other, offering comfort in quiet gestures. A hand on a shoulder, a shared glance. A photographer approached, carrying a large, boxy camera. He asked them to pose, explaining nothing of the importance his photograph would have decades later. Pearl stood at the center, her expression calm and steady. Her friends hesitated, some shifting nervously, but Pearl's presence steadied them. In that moment, they were more than mill workers. They were children holding on to their youth amidst hardship. The shutter clicked, and the moment was captured forever. Pearl Turner and her friends, small but strong, standing resilient outside the mill, a silent testament to courage and endurance in the face of relentless labor. The mill's daily struggle, every day at the mill, was a battle against time, heat, and exhaustion. Pearl Turner and her friends arrived before dawn, their small feet moving quickly across the dusty paths. Inside, the air was thick with lint and the constant roar of machinery. The spinning wheels and clattering looms created a harsh rhythm that marked their day. Pearl worked alongside her friends, fingers nimble despite their youth, moving quickly to keep up with the relentless pace. There was little room for mistakes. A slip could mean punishment. The overseers watched constantly, their eyes sharp, voices harsh. Lunch was short, sometimes just a piece of bread, eaten while sitting on the cold floor. Sweat dripped down faces, staining clothes, but they kept going. Outside, the sun beat down mercilessly, but inside, the heat from the machines was just as punishing. Still, in the moments between tasks, Pearl and her friends shared quiet smiles, whispered encouragements, and small acts of kindness. A shared rag to wipe sweat, a whispered joke. These fleeting moments of humanity gave them strength, a sense of camaraderie that kept them going through each grueling day at the mill. Secrets behind the loom. The looms at the mill were more than just machines. They were traps of endless repetition. Each thread had to be perfect, each movement precise, or the overseers would notice. Pearl Turner's hands moved almost automatically, weaving patterns she barely understood. The older girls whispered about mistakes that could cost a finger or worse, but Pearl kept her focus, fearing their warnings. Between the clatter and hum of the machines, she noticed small things others ignored: a fraying thread, a loose bolt, the subtle shifts in the overseer's moods. These details became her secret world, something only she observed. It gave her a tiny sense of control in a place where control was almost impossible. Some days, she imagined herself outside, running through fields far from the mill's oppressive walls, sunlight on her face and wind in her hair. But reality always snapped back the sharp whistle, the pounding boots, the endless clamor of work. Yet even in this relentless grind, Pearl found small victories. Fixing a thread before it snapped, helping a friend reach a difficult spot, or stealing a moment to breathe. These small acts, unnoticed by the overseers, became her quiet rebellion, her way of holding onto herself amidst the harsh life inside the mill. The day everything changed, it started like any other day, with the whistle shrieking through the mill, demanding every hand at work. But Pearl noticed something different. An unusual hush, a tension that made the air heavy. The overseers moved faster than usual, their eyes darting around nervously. Whispers ran through the rows of workers, but no one dared speak out loud. Then the loud crash came. A loom had snapped, sending threads and gears flying. For a moment, everything froze. Pearl's heart pounded in her chest as she saw the overseers' faces pale, their usual confidence shattered. Amid the chaos, Pearl felt a spark of courage she had never known. She stepped carefully between the machines, helping the younger girls away from danger, guiding them toward the exit the older girls had told her about in hushed voices. The mill's walls felt less oppressive that day, as if the building itself recognized a change. Outside, the air was thick with smoke and possibility, and Pearl realized that sometimes disaster could open a path to freedom. The day had started with routine and fear, but it ended with hope, and Pearl knew nothing would ever be the same again. Whispers of rebellion by evening, the town was alive with murmurs. Word of the crash had spread, and the workers exchanged glances full of unspoken understanding. Pearl could hear it in the quiet corners of the mill. Plans forming, small acts of defiance that would grow into something larger. She listened to the older girls recount secret ways to bypass the overseers, hidden paths, and signals no one else noticed. Every whispered suggestion felt like a spark, igniting courage where fear had lived for so long. Pearl began to see the cracks in the walls of their oppression, small openings that promised freedom. Even the youngest children began to mimic the older ones, learning the signs and signals that would keep them safe. That night, Pearl lay awake in her small room, the sounds of the mill distant behind her. The whispers in her mind were louder than ever. Change is coming. She realized that courage didn't have to roar. Sometimes it only needed a voice, quiet but determined, to awaken a storm. And with that thought, Pearl knew that tomorrow they would begin the first steps toward rebellion. The mill that once seemed invincible now felt fragile, ready to be challenged. The first spark the next morning, Pearl rose before dawn. The air was thick with mist, and the first hints of sunlight barely touched the rooftops. She moved quietly through the narrow streets, careful not to alert the overseers who still patrolled the town. Her plan was small but bold. Deliver a secret note to the other girls, a simple message that could change everything. We will not obey in silence. Every step felt heavier with responsibility, but also lighter with purpose. When she reached the meeting spot, she found the others waiting, their eyes wide with anticipation and fear. Together, they read the note aloud, each word sinking into their hearts. The fear that had kept them silent before now transformed into something stronger: resolve. Pearl saw in their faces the same spark she felt inside herself. It was fragile, easily snuffed out, but undeniable. That spark, the first sign of rebellion, would grow if nurtured carefully. They made a pact to support one another, to protect their small acts of defiance, and to spread the message quietly. Even the simplest gestures, like a hidden note or a shared glance, now carried power. And for the first time, Pearl believed that even in the face of overwhelming oppression, change was possible. Rising shadows as days passed, they were breaking. Pearl felt the thrill and fear mixed together, a dangerous but necessary balance. Rumors began to spread quietly, whispers shared in corners and behind closed doors. The overseers remained unaware, distracted by their daily routines, blind to the rising tension. But Pearl knew it was only a matter of time before someone noticed. Still, she pressed on, guiding the others to act with precision and courage. Shadows of doubt lingered, creeping into their minds at night, but each morning brought renewed determination. They were learning that courage could be contagious, that even small acts could ripple outward, slowly undermining the control that had held them for so long. The town, silent and unaware, was about to witness the first tremors of change. The final spark, the day had come. Pearl and her friends stood together, hearts pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The small acts of defiance had grown into a movement, and now it was time to strike at the heart of the oppression. Every step was calculated, every gesture rehearsed in their minds countless times. As they moved through the town, whispers turned into murmurs, and murmurs into bold voices joining their cause. The overseers sensed something, their eyes darting nervously, but it was too late. Pearl felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, yet also an incredible sense of power. The townspeople, inspired by the courage of a few, began to rise, refusing to comply, demanding their rights. The streets filled with energy, with the sound of chains breaking. Not just the literal ones, but the invisible chains of fear that had held them for so long. Pearl knew that this was just the beginning, that the spark they had lit would grow into a flame strong enough to reshape their world. The oppressive silence shattered, and the town took its first steps toward freedom. A new dawn. The town slowly woke to a world changed forever. The fear that had once ruled their lives was gone, replaced by a cautious hope. Pearl and her friends walked through the streets, seeing the faces of those who had once cowered, now filled with determination and pride. Broken chains and open doors marked their journey, signs of the battles they had fought and won together. Children laughed in the streets, their voices carrying freely without the shadow of fear. Elders whispered prayers of gratitude, and neighbors embraced, united by a shared struggle and a newfound strength. Pearl realized that their victory was not just about defeating the overseers. It was about awakening the courage hidden in every heart. Every small act of bravery had led to this moment, a moment where ordinary people became extraordinary. The sky above seemed brighter, the air lighter, as if the world itself recognized their triumph. And though challenges would come again, they now knew they could face them together. A new dawn had arrived, not just for the town, but for every soul ready to live free, ready to embrace hope, and ready to build a future of their own making. The echoes of victory, even after the celebrations faded, the town carried the echoes of what they had endured. Pearl stood at the edge of the hill, looking down at the streets she once feared to walk. Every shattered wall, every burned-out building told a story of struggle, but also of resilience. Survivors shared quiet smiles, knowing that their courage had rewritten their fate. Messages of hope spread beyond the town, reaching neighboring communities who had only heard of their resistance in whispers. Pearl thought of the friends lost along the way, their sacrifices etched forever in memory. Yet, life continued, fragile but determined. The children played with reckless joy, unaware of the horrors that had once threatened them, but inspired by the bravery that had saved them. Merchants reopened shops, and laughter slowly replaced the distant sounds of despair. The town had survived, not because of one hero, but because of the unity of many hearts willing to fight, to resist, and to protect one another. In every glance and every handshake, the echo of victory remained. A reminder that even in the darkest times, hope and courage could shine through, guiding humanity forward. A future rebuilt. Months passed, and the town began to rise from the ashes. Pearl walked through streets that were once rubble, now lined with fresh paint and new structures. The scars of battle remained, but they no longer defined the people. Children ran freely, their laughter echoing where silence had once ruled. Farmers tended fields with renewed vigor, and markets buzzed with energy, proof that life always finds a way. Pearl met neighbors who had once been strangers, now bound by shared trials and victories. Together, they planned schools, libraries, and safe places for everyone. A community rebuilt not just with stone and wood, but with trust and determination. Messages of solidarity traveled beyond their borders, inspiring other towns to recover and resist despair. Pearl understood that the future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. Every act of kindness, every effort to rebuild, strengthened the foundation for the next generation. In the warmth of the sun and the gentle hum of daily life, she realized that survival was only the beginning. With unity, hope, and courage, they could face whatever came next, turning scars into stories and loss into strength. The shadows linger even as the town thrived, the shadows of the past lingered. At night, Pearl would hear whispers carried by the wind, reminders of the chaos that had nearly destroyed them. Some streets still bore marks of fire and conflict, silent witnesses to the battles fought. Memories of loss haunted the survivors, shaping their dreams and fears. Pearl often walked alone through dimly lit alleys, feeling the weight of what had been endured. Yet, these shadows were not enemies, they were lessons. Each scar told a story of resilience, of courage in the face of despair. People learned to honor the fallen by living boldly, refusing to let fear dominate their lives. Communities held vigils, shared stories, and celebrated small victories. Pearl realized that healing wasn't forgetting. It was remembering and moving forward. The past remained a teacher, guiding their steps, warning them of complacency, and reminding them of the strength hidden within ordinary hearts. Shadows would linger, but they no longer controlled the light that had begun to shine. A flicker of hope after months of uncertainty, a flicker of hope appeared in the town. People began to rebuild homes, repair streets, and reopen shops that had long been abandoned. Children's laughter returned to parks that once lay silent, and the air was filled with cautious optimism. Pearl watched neighbors helping one another, sharing resources and stories, finding strength in unity. Even small acts, a repaired fence, a freshly baked loaf of bread, a shared meal, felt monumental. Messages of encouragement spread quickly, reminding everyone that recovery was possible. The community learned that hope wasn't about denying hardship, but about choosing to act despite it. Slowly, smiles replaced fear, and determination overtook despair. Pearl understood that these sparks of hope, however small, could ignite change and resilience. Every effort, every gesture mattered. The town was no longer defined by its scars, but by the courage of its people, ready to face a future uncertain but bright. Hope had returned, delicate but unbreakable. The final stand, the day had come. Every resident knew this might be their last chance to defend what they had rebuilt. Barricades were strengthened, and people prepared themselves for the final stand. Pearl walked among them, offering words of encouragement, her own fear hidden behind determination. The enemy approached, a shadow over the horizon, but the town did not waver. Children were guided to safety, while adults held their ground, united in purpose. Every shout, every movement was synchronized, a testament to months of preparation. When the clash began, chaos erupted, but the townspeople fought with unmatched resolve. Each strike was driven by love for their home and community. Pearl's heart pounded, yet she kept moving forward, helping where needed, inspiring courage. Slowly, the enemy faltered, unable to break the spirit of those defending the town. The final stand became a symbol, not just of survival, but of human resilience, determination, and unity. Even after the dust settled, the strength of their courage would be remembered forever. Humanity played dumb for centuries until aliens threatened their children. The spaceship landed violently on Earth, shaking the ground and sending a cloud of dust into the small town below. Neon lights from the ship illuminated the streets, painting everything in an eerie glow. A crowd gathered, frozen in shock as a sarin emerged, its crystalline skin refracting the neon into dazzling colors. It spoke in its alien language, but the ship translated, "Greetings, Earthlings. I am Zervoz from Prisa." The aliens had come, demanding obedience and testing humanity's patience. But humans remained calm, hiding their knowledge, pretending ignorance. Deep inside, they had watched, waited, and learned for centuries. Now, the stakes were personal. When the sarin threatened the children, a spark ignited in human hearts. Parents, teachers, and guardians realized the time for pretense was over. Their centuries of patience turned into swift, precise action. Humanity's cleverness, underestimated for so long, became their greatest weapon. What the aliens thought would be easy domination turned into a test of survival. Humans defending their most precious, showing the galaxy that centuries of subtle strategy could no longer be ignored. Humanity played dumb for centuries until aliens threatened their children. The aliens stood before the humans, expecting fear, but found calm determination instead. Zervoz and his team believed humans were weak, foolish, and unprepared. For centuries, humanity had acted like simple creatures, easy to manipulate. Yet beneath that act, they had studied every alien tactic, every weakness, every pattern. When the aliens dared to threaten human children, the veil of pretense vanished. Parents' eyes burned with protective fury, soldiers moved with precision born from decades of preparation, and civilians acted with unexpected courage. Every move was calculated, every counter carefully executed. The aliens, powerful and advanced, had underestimated the very species they thought harmless. Humanity's centuries of patience, observation, and hidden strength now collided with alien arrogance. The once calm, unassuming humans became an unstoppable force. The children were safe, but the aliens learned a hard truth: humans were not what they seemed, and threatening them came with consequences no one could ignore. The galaxy would remember this day forever. Humanity played dumb for centuries until aliens threatened their children. The small town was silent as the alien ship descended, neon lights cutting through the night. Zervoz stepped forward, his crystalline skin refracting the colors, expecting awe and fear. The crowd of humans stared, but instead of panic, they showed calm, calculating eyes. Centuries of pretending to be weak had hidden a truth. Humans had learned, studied, and prepared. When the aliens threatened the children, the pretense dropped. Parents, soldiers, and even ordinary civilians moved with precision, coordinated instinct, and fierce protective rage. Every plan the aliens had counted on failed. The humans' hidden strength, honed over generations, shattered the invaders' confidence. For the first time, the aliens realized that what they thought was harmless simplicity was centuries of preparation and resilience. Humanity had played dumb, but the moment their children were endangered, they revealed their true power. The galaxy would never underestimate Earth again. Humanity played dumb for centuries until aliens threatened their children. As the alien envoys looked around, confusion spread across their faces. Humans moved calmly, yet every gesture was precise, almost rehearsed. Children were quickly guided to safety, while adults formed defensive positions with tools, machines, and improvised weapons. Zervoz had expected chaos, screams, and panic, but found instead a silent, deadly efficiency. Generations of humans had observed, learned, and adapted. Pretending weakness had been their shield, patience their weapon. Now, that patience ended. Each human acted in perfect coordination, protecting the young and outmaneuvering alien tactics. The invaders' strategies crumbled, and their confidence faltered. The same species they had underestimated for centuries now struck with clarity and purpose. Every move, every defensive measure revealed centuries of hidden ingenuity and resilience. Humanity had waited, silently studying, and now their children's safety was the trigger that unleashed their true strength. The galaxy had misjudged Earth, and the aliens would remember this day forever. Humanity played dumb for centuries until aliens threatened their children. The alien leaders exchanged nervous glances as human defenses intensified. What they had taken for panic or ignorance was actually careful calculation. Parents shielded their children with unwavering focus, forming barricades and directing others with clear commands. Every movement seemed simple, yet it was precise, methodical, and terrifyingly effective. Zervaz realized that humans had studied them, learned their weaknesses, and waited for the exact moment to act. Their dumb, fast aid had been a clever mask hiding centuries of survival instinct, creativity, and strategic thinking. As the aliens tried to regain control, humans anticipated their every action, countering with ingenuity that no simulator or history lesson could have predicted. The children's safety fueled their determination, and what seemed like desperation was actually disciplined, coordinated response. The invaders began to falter, shock spreading across their faces. Humanity had turned the tables, showing that their patience and cunning were far more dangerous than raw strength. For the first time, the galaxy saw the true depth of human intelligence and ferocity. The aliens' surprise was total. They had underestimated humans for generations, thinking their apparent calm and simplicity meant weakness. But as humans organized around their children, every gesture revealed strategy. Families moved with purpose, forming protective circles, coordinating with neighbors, and even improvising weapons from the environment. The invaders tried to exploit gaps, but humans anticipated them, adapting in real time. It was not chaos. It was controlled, deliberate action. Zervos and the other leaders realized too late that humans had been observing, learning, and planning silently for centuries. Their innocence was a mask hiding sharp intelligence and tactical brilliance. The aliens had thought humans would panic, beg, or surrender, but instead they faced resistance shaped by generations of survival and ingenuity. Every attempt to intimidate or coerce was countered with creativity that no advanced technology could predict. The children's safety ignited a force the galaxy had never truly witnessed. Humans had played dumb for centuries,